Alright, all you up-all-nighters, you insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and drivers, and especially you streetlight crusaders from all around the world. Welcome to the 5:37 in the morning edition of the Tuesday Night Special. I am your insomniatic host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing you the best for the North, South, East, and West that the world of music, games, and wrestling has to offer. And seeing the fact that we are here for your final Tuesday night before we leave this month of fools, we might as well waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special month-ending foolhardy late night edition of the Tuesday Night Special. Because we kick things off with what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. Next up on the plate, we also check out a very special Saturday Night Live sketch show, TV show edition of the At Scene on TV. And this one is sort of a house of fun of sorts. And that's the only hint you're gonna get too. Next up on the plate, we go ahead and check out some video game hits, clips, as well as scratching that indie itch you've got at home from the world of Cade for another edition of the Cade Triple S Deluxe. Next up on the plate, we find out what sort of crazy outfit Dan the Weatherman Stu's got to wrap up this month of fools, and what sort of weather we can expect as we try to hope for Mayflowers for next month for another edition of the weather update. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, Dan the Weatherman Stu is going to be wearing some form of rain outfit. But there's no rain in the forecast, is there? Is there? Well, while we try to figure that out, folks, finally, last but not least, and hopefully before we have to break out a canoe or a life raft, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys two news stories followed up by local content information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, put up that brand new logo we've got for the show and raise it high to celebrate. Cause it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your street-lit, moonlit Tuesday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So let's get this streetlight show started, folks. Alright, all you streetlight crusaders, and I guess a couple you wrestling fans who are still up for the night, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to find out what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. The fact that I love that song and only heard it twice in my lifetime is amazing, according to Carl and the Maestro. And yeah, seriously, it's one of my favorite songs, and favorite songs based off a state outside of the one for Georgia that Ray Charles sung. Really good song. I recommend listening to it in the future. But besides musical suggestions, folks, Monday Night Raw we kick off with, well, what happened last week to end off Monday Night Raw with Seth Rollins making some form of dangerous alliance with Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker. And this week, Monday Night Raw would kick off, well, with Monday Night Raw's own Monday Night Rollins with Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker in tow. Now, the first couple of words that Seth Rollins said I was not paying attention to due to those ridiculous Spy Kid glasses that he had on his face. But once he took those glasses off, he would say that he knows that it's painful for those who wants to chant for CM Punk, for those who wants to chant or put their fingers high in the sky for Roman Reigns. But what's in this ring is the future of our industry, and the future runs through me. Only for Sami Zayn to immediately come out and would say that, oh, well, did you see what happened on WrestleMania? And Seth Rollins saying that, of course, and for Sami Zayn to say, yeah, I saw what happened, and this whole thing you got right now is a load of crap. Because for somebody who was so against the bloodline and so against everything that CM Punk was doing and everything that Roman Reigns was doing, you're doing the same thing having Paul Heyman in your corner. And would say you didn't want to get rid of them, you were more or less jealous of them and wanted to be in the position that they're in currently right now, and would say that all that you do right now, I see the reason why in the world you're doing it, and you didn't like Roman Reigns doing it because you weren't in the center of it. And now that you are, you don't care, and you're hypocritical. Only for Seth Rollins to say that this is the vision of the future, and either you're with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, you'll be a target. And even though we're friends and we go way back, yeah, you'll still be a target. And then would immediately tell him, how about you get off of Raw? Get out of the way of the whole line of fire that's coming, and just Paul will call in a favor and get you out of here so you don't have to be here for what happens next. But don't give me an answer now. Wait until the end of the night. Well, I guess according to Carl and the Maestro, we'll have to revisit that, because the first match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Rhea Ripley going one-on-one against the prodigy Roxanne Perez. And Roxanne Perez living up to her prodigy name by not only pulling off several attacks to the knee of Rhea Ripley, trying to get rid of the power game, and would even pull off a springboard corner moonsault for a near fall. Even seeing Rhea Ripley, despite all the damage to her leg, pull off a razor's edge and a nasty shining wizard of sorts for Rhea Ripley to get a near fall. But immediately after we would see that shining wizard, we would then see none other than Julia make her way out to the ring at ringside, now taking a close eye to this match for Rhea to think she knows what was coming next, but took her eye off the ball and almost fell victim to the Monday Night Special. Still for a near fall. Then we would see the prodigy pull off a handstand knee strike, only for a near fall as well too. But the second we would see Rhea Ripley trying to go for a riptide, Julia would get involved with a chop block right to the leg for the referee to rule this match a disqualification in favor of Rhea. Only for none other than Io to come out and help out with not only a stomp to the chest of Julia, because she's gotta have it, but then would try to go for that corner springboard drop kick for Julia to catch her off the ropes and for a beatdown to begin on Io, for Rhea to come out to help and to avoid a beatdown for the both of them. Now, meanwhile, backstage after this little attack, folks, we would then immediately see none other than Rhea and Io talking back and forth, and Rhea saying, I didn't need your help, only for Io to say, it looks like you did. And then for Io to say, oh, after what Io said, Rhea to say, oh, well, that makes us even. And then for them to walk off. Now, granted, they did not show that on Monday Night Raw, and we had to do some digging to find it, but still, pretty cool moment. And for some strange reason, reminded me of Rush Hour for some reason. I don't know why, but I got a feeling it would make for good people to be in a buddy cop movie in the near future. And before I get lost in thought for that, folks, the next thing, meanwhile, backstage in the clubhouse of the Judgment Day, we would see Finn Balor talking to him, none other than JD, and a little confused like we are, wondering, hey, well, when were you going to tell me you were back? And then JD would tell him, oh, Dominic, I let him in on the plan and he was supposed to tell you. And he said, oh, but why didn't you let me in on it? For Liv to come out of nowhere and to say, hey, what are you guys talking about over here in the corner? And before I forget, you guys are in a match later on tonight too with the War Raiders. And for Finn to still be confusing, well, why didn't you tell me about this? Well, I told JD, and okay, of course. But besides Finn Balor living in the land of confusion, Logan Paul would be in the ring and talk about how the fact that he was able to beat AJ Styles, and would say that people, especially people here in Kansas City, does not know what a true legend looks like. And I can tell you this much, it's not Jey Uso. And would say to Jay that, you have something I want, and it's only a matter of time before I get my hands on it. For Jey Uso to make his way out to the ring and would say, you think after 15 years of trying to make my way through this company, I'm gonna hand this title over to some punk YouTuber? Nuh-uh. Because Gunther lit a fire in me that's never going out, and it's not going to be given, it's going to be earned, and if you want it, come and take it. 4 letters, 1 word, and then yeet, as he would say. Only for Logan Paul to say that he's going to take it, and it's going to be in his hands, and this title reign that he's got is going to be just as long as that Intercontinental title reign you had before, so enjoy it while it lasts. But before he can finish that last word, folks, he would get super kicked directly in the face. And for those wondering out there in the fast forward later on to the night, Logan Paul would get his revenge after trying to give some advice to Sami Zayn about his decision, and would get punched in the face before Logan Paul would yeet afterwards. Yikes. And the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than the War Raiders going one-on-one against the Judgment Day. And during this match with New Day at commentary, oh boy, complaining left and right about what they've done, what dead weight they cut, about the fact that Ivar should have left his partner in the dirt after he decided to get injured. And yeah, I bet that would have been a great idea, because during this match, despite the New Day's commentary, we would see JD back in the ring better than ever, pulling off an Asai moonsault to both members of the War Raiders, and even a moonsault inside of the ring to Ivar for near fall. Even seeing Finn Balor getting tossed into the New Day for Ivar to shut up the New Day at commentary with a crossbody to everybody on the scene. And then as we would see this match come to a close with Carlito trying to run interference from some sort of sneak play, we would then see Penta making his way, tossing JD off the top rope, giving enough opportunity for the War Machine to strike, and for the War Raiders to win this match via pinfall. And after the match was over, we would see Penta dancing on the table like a smooth operator, as some people on Twitter would call it, and then would immediately get in a confrontation backstage with Chad Gable. Because Chad Gable would then say, oh, great way to slip up on that loss at WrestleMania. But that wasn't my favorite part about WrestleMania. My favorite part is that your brother got beat by El Grande Americano on his first crack at the dance. And yeah, what would he get for saying that? He would get kicked right in the gut for Penta to remind him that he's cero miedo. And I got a feeling El Grande Luchador, or whatever his name is gonna somehow make his way to the scene and interfere in the match next week. I'm calling it in advance. And speaking of things that we called behind the scenes, folks, Becky Lynch making her way to the ring and would say, no, you're not gonna have to wait a whole bunch of weeks for a murder mystery to find out what happened to Bayley, because I decided to take her out. Yep, I knew it. And the reason why she did is because Bayley's been attacking her since 2019, which is fair. It's fair. But at the same time, Bayley would then, or more or less would say that Bayley saw what a bigger star she was at WrestleMania by helping Lyra Valkyria win those titles. And would talk about how she worked with Bayley and say that Lyra was compromised ever since she was working with Bayley, but after last week, yeah, definitely tried to prove herself against that. But then again, Laya Valkyria would make her way out to the ring and would say that a lot of people in the locker room warned me of what type of person you are and that you would step on somebody just to get ahead. But she didn't listen because she was caught up in a fantasy until last week where she got hit with 3 manhandle slams and had the daylights beaten out of her. Only for Becky to say that she only fights when it matters because Lyra challenged her to a match right here, right now. Only for Lyra to say, oh, well, if you only fight when it matters, how about we fight one-on-one at Backlash? And since I know you're not going to fight without me putting this title on the line, I'm going to put it on the line. And then she said she's going to be a better person than she is because she's already a better wrestler than she is now. And for Becky Lynch to immediately tell her that you wouldn't be able to dream or have any of the things you had if it wasn't for me. And before she could continue any further, 2 feet would meet her in the face. They would get to fighting outside of the ring. And then immediately after that fight would break out, folks, we would then see Becky Lynch going into retreat. But as soon as Laya Valkyria would go up that ramp, celebrate with the championship, she would get attacked from behind by Becky Lynch, who would then walk to the back proud of herself of what she did. Of course. Then immediately after that, we would hear from the Bulgarian brute himself, Rusev, talking about the fact that he had it all. Championships, a hot wife, even a tank at WrestleMania 31. But would say that he would lose himself only for him to go back home to Bulgaria and fix himself in the abyss. And would say that now he's back to crush people not because he's told, because he wants to. And now looks to fix people through pain and fix people who's lost themselves. Or more or less redeem them. Okay, well, that's Rusev's plan, and the first man on his list for next week is going to be Otis. That should be exciting. And speaking of exciting things, folks, the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Stephanie Vaquera going one-on-one against Ivy Nile. And during this match, we would see the NXT Women's Champion putting Ivy through the ringer, not only being able to pull off a fake-out crucifix head scissors into a roll-up or an inside cradle for a near fall, even seeing the Devil's Kisses not once but twice during this set contest, followed up by a corner Meteora for a near fall thanks to Chad Gable. And while we would see Stephanie getting in the face of Chad, she would eat a German suplex, a corner kick, followed by yet another German suplex during this match with a pin bridge follow-up, still for near fall. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end after we would see a nasty dragon screw out of the corner, followed up by the SVP for Stephanie Vaquera to win this match via pinfall. Then after that bit of business, folks, backstage, we would hear none other than Liv Morgan saying that she's gonna be going off to the movies. And while she asked for a little bit of time off, which would be granted by Nick Aldis. Now, for those who are confused, unfortunately, Adam Pearce would not be there this week, and Nick Aldis would be in his place. And he would grant that time off for Dominic to ask for some time off too, for Dominic to find out that when you're a champion, you have to work twice as hard and show up twice as much. But I could have sworn Liv Morgan was one half of the tag team champions and she was granted time off. 'Cause of a movie? 'Cause of a movie? Okay, according to Carl and the Maestro, I think that counts for something. But before we try to figure out what movie that was, AJ Styles, who was in the room talking to Nick Aldis prior to the Judgment Day's interruption, would say, oh, maybe I got some plans for you in the future, because he was looking at that Intercontinental Championship and Dominic being disrespectful about, oh, what retirement home she should be in. Really? To call out the Phenomenal One like that? Of course. Only for Nick Aldis to listen in to the plans of AJ Styles and hopefully leading to an Intercontinental Championship in the world of the Phenomenal One. Because I'm pretty sure he's never held that title before. I could be wrong. Then immediately after that, back ringside, we would hear from Pat McAfee addressing the elephant in the room of what happened last week that went viral, of the fact that he was choked out by the ring general. And would say that once he leaves this earth, he wants people to know that he made it just a little bit better than he left it, and wants to prove that he's loyal, because he said, if you got a problem with Michael Cole, you got a problem with me. And would say that he wanted to get his hands on Gunther. Only for Nick Aldis to come out after Pat McAfee would call him out, and Nick to say that, yeah, he wants to keep it professional, and the fact that you want your hands on Gunther tonight is not going to happen, but instead it's going to happen in that squared circle, because at Backlash, it's going to be you versus Gunther one-on-one. Only for Michael Cole to say, well, I don't think that was a good idea. For Pat McAfee to cut him off and say, to hell with Gunther. Which made me laugh. It really did. But at the same time, heat of the moment situation, you got to remember how dangerous Gunther was back in the UK and back in NXT and currently in this current roster. Yeah, and especially seeing the fact that he lost the championship today. Yeah, he's not going to be in a pleasant mood once he comes back. And, before I forget, he was suspended and fined. But the suspension's been lifted. I'm not sure about the fine, so with some money out of his pocket, he's definitely coming back in a fighting mood. Yeesh. Then immediately after that, folks, we would see Seth Rollins in the ring with Sami Zayn, wondering what his decision would be, and would say to Sami Zayn that, yeah, what he's doing is for the future of this company, the future of this business, and the fact that you don't see it or believe in me, it hurts. And would ask, how many true friends do you truly have in this business? Only a handful, right? And he would say that he's the first person he called for some advice once he became a father, and it was one of the best advice he's ever gotten, and wants to do the same to him, and would tell him that to take the way out, because things are going to end bad for you if you stay here on Monday Night Raw. And then for Sami Zayn to say, yes, we're good friends outside the ring, but for everything that you're doing inside of this ring is that you're playing games. You know that the one thing I always wanted to be is a world champion, and you dangle that in front of me like a carrot on a string, and would say, I will not be manipulated, I will not be extorted, blackballed, blacklisted, or anything along those lines, and if I want to win a world championship, I'm going to do it the right way. And then he would say, as far as friends goes, he respects them, but for your offer, go to hell. And the second Seth Rollins would look toward the ground, we would start to hear the air raid sirens in the form of hell itself, with Braun Breaker in our main event of the evening, which would see none other than Braun Breaker going one-on-one against Sami Zayn. And during this match, and oh boy, when you tell Seth Rollins to go to hell, maybe you might want to choose a better set of words with Braun Breaker on his side, because Sami Zayn would not only get hit with a flying clothesline on the table, but Sami would fight back with a sunset flip powerbomb and even a tornado DDT, both for near falls. But once that Breakensteiner hit, and the first spear that he would try to deliver would get reversed into an exploder suplex, some might think, yeah, there's hope in this match, but yeah, when he would try to go for a Helova kick, he would get the Helova kicked out of him all right. Sami Zayn, that is, with a nasty spear. Only for another spear to strike during this match, and then for Seth Rollins to say, hey, take the out, man, take the out, get out of here, you still have a chance. For Sami to once again tell him to go to hell, and yeah, hell he would go all right, because then we would see Seth Rollins cutting his throat, Braun Breaker running at the speed of a school bus, and spearing the daylights out of Sami Zayn for the third time tonight. Yeesh, yeesh. And according to Colin Maestro, technically 4 times that he speared him, and yeah, the referee would have no choice but to rule this match a no contest in favor of Braun Breaker. But Braun Breaker, hungry for blood, would say, "It's over when I say it's over," only for Seth Rollins to get into the ring and get in his face and say that sometimes you gotta be empathetic to people, you really do. But now, Sammy made his bed, and now he's gonna lie in it, and would stomp his head right into the mat and lay him out in the center of the ring for Monday Night Raw to come to a close for this week with more questions than answers. And what are some of those questions? What is gonna happen next week? Is this dangerous alliance gonna continue to run roughshod over Monday Night Raw? Will we see somebody stand up to these guys, or will they get rolled over like Sami Zayn? And what of Logan Paul? Is he gonna get a title shot at Backlash before Gunther can? And will Gunther beat the ever-living daylights out of Pat McAfee for stepping up to him in the disrespectful way that he believed that he did? Well, we find out the answers to that and more next week for another exciting, thrilling edition of Monday Night Raw. But until then, folks, I think it's time for us to get out of here as we go grab a glass of water. And when we return, we'll be back with more of that Streetlight Delight as the Tuesday Night Special rolls on right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Alright, all you Insomniatic TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to go into yet another Comedy Central tribute edition of the As Seen on TV. And the show we have up for this week is a show that Carl and the Maestro has never heard of before, but a show that came on in that sweet spot hours we keep mentioning, none other than TV Funhouse. And Carl and the Maestro a little bit more confused from that, but don't worry, we'll explain during the meat and potatoes. Trust me, trust me. Because the meat and potatoes for this said show would feature none other than the Anapals, with none other than the host of Bob, going on adventures and learning and loving while things go horribly, horribly wrong. Oh God. And man, do things go horribly wrong for this show, I tell you, on a multitude of occasions. But outside of those things that will go horribly wrong, which was one of my favorite things about this show, another one of my favorite things about this show is, folks, is that this comes with a very star-studded cast. And one of them being Dino Stamanopoulos, and hopefully you said that last name right, who would go on to create Moral Oral, another show where things will go horribly wrong despite him trying to do the right thing. Yikes! Yikes! But speaking of that all-star cast, folks, the first man we have up for it would be none other than Doug the Host, who would be the host of TV Funhouse for well over 8 episodes for this said show, as well as being the bubble guy, goldfish, and a possum during the 2023 movie of Leo, as well as playing Cal in Hotel Transylvania, as well as a couple of other voices featured a part of the first installment of the film. Next up on the page, we have none other than Robert Smithgold, who would not only play Froggy during this said show for 8 episodes, but would also be a writer for 356 episodes of Saturday Night Live, as well as being a writer for the Conan O'Brien show for 385 episodes, and a writer a part of Leo, as well as Walter the Dentist for Punch Drunk Love. Not bad. Next up on the list, you would have none other than John Glasser, who would play Hojo during Saturday TV Funhouse, or TV Funhouse, that was featured a part of this show, as well as playing not only in 443 episodes of Late Night with Conan O'Brien as a writer, as well as being a writer for Inside of Amy Schumer, and also a part of Delocated, The Dictator, and even featured a part of Delocated as well too. I'm pretty sure he did play the main guy featured during the show, and Carl and the Maestro would say yes, he did. And also was featured as that character, a part of Conan O'Brien. A full circle experience. How about that? Then you have the man, the myth, the legend himself, none other than Dino Stamatopoulos. And once again, hopefully we got that name right, who would play Chicky, a part of this show of TV Funhouse, but would also play as a writer, a part of Community for 24 episodes. Even featured a part of Mary Shelley's Frankenhole. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot about that show, and trust me, we'll cover that in the near future, but he was featured during that for 13 episodes, as well as being a part of the Mr. Show with Bob and David for 21 episodes, and even a part of Animalicia as a producer in 2015. Not bad at all. Next up on the plate, you got none other than Tommy Blancha, who would not only play Hank for 8 episodes, a part of TV Funhouse, but would also be responsible for being a writer, a part of Metalocalypse, even a part of the Late Night Show with Conan O'Brien, and a part of Moonbeam City for 3 episodes. Not bad. And according to Carl and the Maestro, the fact that he was also a part of this show as well too, of Trip Tank for 1 episode, was pretty cool, and even was a writer, a part of the Eric Andre show. So guys used to chaos is the reason why in the world Carl and the Maestro's laughing over in the corner. Next up, you have David Jusko, who was Larry, a part of 8 episodes of TV Funhouse, but would also be a part of Turbocharged as Rick Otkasek for 8 episodes, and was even a cop in Bird's Eye View. Not bad. And also was Slip, a part of 1 episode of the Sarah Silverman program. Next up on the list, you have none other than Tim Meadows, who would not only play Curly for 2 episodes of TV Funhouse, but would also be the ladies' man as Leon Phelps in 2000, and was even Mr. Duval in Mean Girls, Harry and Pop Star Never Gonna Stop, and would also play Sam, a part of the Dewey Cox documentary film of Walk Hard. Oh, and not to mention was himself in The Simpsons. Then you have none other than Joe Frazier. What, the boxer? According to Colin Maestro, no, not the boxer, but someone else, who would not only be a part of the movie Rocky as himself, also a part of the said film of Bocce Balls as a boxing trainer, even Terrible Tucker in Ghost Fever, as well as playing a tough guy in A Christmas Journey Home back in 1996. Next up on the plate, you have none other than Tara Sands, who would not only during this show would play, and according to Carl and the Maestro, one of the characters that was featured during it, but would also be a part of the Digimon series that's not only Karikama, as well as playing a TV news reporter, but would also play Makuba Kaiba, a part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and even playing Bulbasaur, Yamper, and Phanpy for 245 episodes of Pokemon, and would also be Bulbasaur, a part of the Pokemon, the first movie that we were able to see in school. Lucky us. And finally, last but not least, you would have none other than Joe Lotrugo, who would not only during this show play, and according to Carl and the Maestro, a bellboy for 1 episode, but would also play Paul, or would play O'Reilly in the movie Paul, Kuzik in Role Models, Francis the driver in Superbad, and even Mr. Edwards, a part of the Pineapple Express. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, one of my favorite episodes during this show, and I would have to say the host of the show outside of the dog that was featured during it had to have been some of my favorite characters. Now, one of my favorite episodes for this said show, and Carl and the Maestro automatically rolling their eyes, and what? Why are you rolling your eyes for? Oh, because my favorite episode had to involve when Doug, the host, decided to give blood to try to give back to the Anapals, who would try to use that blood to sell it to try to get their best friend Chameleon a makeover so that they would go out with the Chameleon, only for that makeover to go horribly wrong during an episode of Sally. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. During this show, Sally Jesse Raphael was featured during it. I kid you not. It was during one of the episodes. Carl and the Maestro thought it was a fever dream, but she was featured during that one said episode, along with a couple of sketches that were featured during the said episode. And Carl and the Maestro found that the name of the episode was called Mexican Day, if it makes it any better. And the fact that not only during that said episode it would feature a baby version of Scooby-Doo called Fetal Scooby-Doo during it, and would even feature a smoking campaign themed after Pokemon called Joe Camel, which, it went horribly wrong. I'll just say that much. It was definitely something interesting to watch at around 2:35 in the morning. It was something that was brought to people's attention after the overwhelming success of that said side program that was featured during Saturday Night Live, but didn't feature the incredibly gay duo during any of the episodes of TV Funhouse, which was one of the sketches that was featured during Saturday Night Live. I kid you not. And this show would initially kick off as of December 6th of 2000, but unfortunately would only be able to last a year and 18 months, or 18 weeks, 18 days? Apparently 18 days, according to Carl and the Maestro, coming to an end as of January 24th of 2001. And with this show having well over 8 episodes and only 1 season, and seeing the fact that we don't know how to review TV shows along the lines of TV Guide or any of those other famous TV reviewers you know of out there, we say this. If you guys want to go ahead and watch a show that features a whole bunch of animals and people getting together to try to solve problems in an R-rated version of Sesame Street that would come on in the middle of the night while your parents are sleeping, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. And trust me when I say this, viewer discretions have been advised. Maybe I should have led with that. I really should have. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more of that Streetlight Delight as the Tuesday Night Special rolls on right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the Insomniatic Show that celebrates a show that's only been on for well over a year, but still is in our heads, only known as the Tuesday Night Special. And according to Carl and the Maestro, one of the Anapals was none other than the dog, the comedy dog Triumph, the comedy dog that Conan O'Brien knew was during that show. I didn't see him. Apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, he was in the front of the picture that they had for the show. Oh, now I see him. Right. See, I should have looked at the picture. But besides trying to look at cool pictures of cool shows that stood the test of time, I think it's time for us to go ahead and check out some video game hits, clips, as well as scratching that indie itch you got from the world of IndieCade for another edition of the IndieCade Triple S Deluxe. And we kick things off with the art wall. And the art wall picture that we have up comes from the developers Finish Line Games with their set game of Maze. And the artwork that they provided for this week shows a house in the far-off distance surrounded by a cornfield with corn that looks like it has eyes and a mouth. Oh, that is bad. That is real bad. Oh, in the far distance to the right, you can also see some trees in what appears to be fall-like weather. And this screenshot automatically reminds me of that one episode of Squidbillies with the corn maze. That's all I gotta say about it. That's what this reminds me of. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you don't have to fight self-aware corn. And according to Carl and the Maestro showing me another picture, oh yeah, we do have to fight sentient corn. Of course. Well, do we have any weapons against it? Well, apparently according to Carl and the Maestro, apparently a teddy bear, but that's about it? Okay. And with that said, folks, we now make our way on over towards the sound wall. And the sound we have up for this week comes from none other than Deeds with his said song of Gotta Hit Hard, or Gotta Hit It Hard, from the video game of Gear Frontier. And when I close my eyes while listening into this show, or this said song, it reminds me of a show. And Carl and the Maestro rolling their eyes because they know what show I'm going to mention. Yeah, I am. And it's a show I came up with called Light Cycles, with a Z at the end of it. And I already know, PR department, I'll pitch it to you. It's a show where in the middle of the night, and they're already rolling their eyes, I didn't even finish. It's the middle of the night when you're riding around in a whole bunch of bikes with lights on the end part of the tubes, and as you race through the streets, it's like a Tron bike battle. For the first one who gets first place, they end up winning a year's supply of, inflation tubes for their bikes, or inner tubes for their bikes so their bikes would not go flat. That was the best prize we could give out. Outside of a gift card to a local bike shop, what do you want from me? And the PR department said, all right, we will see it, but unfortunately the show got canceled after one season due to the fact that, one of the light strips broke off one of the bikes and it hit somebody in the face and they careened into somebody's BMW, causing a big accident. So yeah, that show will not be airing anytime soon. Moving along before I hear anything from any of you over in the corner, because now we head on over to the Screenshot Saturday Showcase, which comes from none other than Synthetic Domain with their set game of Mainframe Defenders. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows not only a couple of pieces on the board in an 8-bit world, but shows them not only trying to battle an assailant weapon, trying to pull off some form of heat damage to it, but also showing off the different model specs for it, as well as the other models that are still on the screen ready for a fight. And this automatically reminds me of a combination of not only XCOM, but also that hacking syndicate game I played on a LEGO website many moons ago. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game that not only do you get a chance to actually upgrade these set robots on the field, but maybe, just maybe, get a chance to take parts away from the other robots that are on the field as well, too, and salvage them to upgrade your robots. Because I got a feeling you're going to need the parts, especially for that big one over in the corner that looks like it has rockets. Because I got a feeling there's going to be some form of robo-dragon in that dungeon, and yes, they exist. I told you that for the 40th time, they exist. But besides trying to prove the existence of Robo-Dragons, we now head into a couple of those games from the Indie Itch page to scratch that indie itch you've got at home. And the first game we have up comes from HN Rin with their set game of Branch Generator, Noah Bernabe with their set game of Paper Cut Bob's Misadventures, Artifacto with their set game of Agent Q, nice name for the game by the way, Bailey with their set game of SCP Watchful Eyes, almost mid-read that one, and finally, wait, we got two more, Smith Mark 93 with their set game of Heatwave Hero, and now finally, last but not least, with the creator's name of Carnation Carnage, nice name by the way, with their set game of Warden Fortune. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out more games from the Indie Itch page to scratch that indie itch you've got at home, then you can go ahead and head on over to the itch.io page of one man only known as itch.io under the games section to check out all those cool games for yourselves. And trust me, you'll be there for a while because there's a million of them. There really is. And if you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games, a part of the Art Wall, Sound Wall, Screenshot Saturday Showcase, or even have your games mentioned over there as well, then you can go ahead and head on over to their Indicade.tumblr page, only known as Indicade.tumblr.com, or head on over to their Facebook page known as Indicade, or even their Twitter, Flickr, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Twitch, SoundCloud, or Steam Machine page, as well as website that are all named the same, but it's just as critically acclaimed, only known as, you guessed it folks, Indicade. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music and continue to listen into these diamonds in the rough as we try to turn your Tuesday night into a Friday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So don't go watch your reruns of Seinfeld just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Alright, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And I know it's a little late in the show to mention it, but for those wondering out there, the logo that is currently up for the Tuesday Night Special, we got on the phone with a couple of people and had to make sure we could use it, and they said yes. So that will be the logo for the show moving forward until we come up with something a wee bit more creative. And according to Carl and the Maestro, they like it. Well, wait till you see the one we got for Under the Radar. That one's nuts. But nevertheless, folks, speaking of things that are nuts making their way through the room right now. Wait, who the hell are these two guys holding on to the... Of course. Making his way in the room right now, wearing some form of Madonna-themed like outfit that doubles over as a raincoat. None other than Dan the Weatherman Stu here to bring you the final weather forecast for this week. Dan the Weatherman Stu, you look absolutely ridiculous. And why in the world do you have two people holding on to the back of that? Oh, that's why, because you almost tripped. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it's your boy from Chicago, Illinois, Dan the Weatherman Stu here to begin to find out what a forecast for this week. And Dan the Weatherman Stu meant to do that. Yeah. Yeah, you meant to trip and fall on the floor and almost break this table with a karate headbutt. Yeah, you meant to do that. Yeah, you did. And what are you two doing? Oh, apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, they hit the button by accident because whoever that world... Wait, Dan the Weatherman Stu, isn't that your younger nephew over there in the corner? As a matter of fact, it is DJ Smokey. It's Bring Your Kid to Work Day, and I wanted to bring them in here. Yeah. But they're not your kids. Where is their parents, and why are they here in the middle of the night? Isn't school tomorrow? Before I get angry, I'm just going to go and I guess, I got some Uno cards. We'll play Uno over in the corner while you do the weather. I mean, it's not going to take long for me to take them out. I'm pretty good at Uno. So, you know what? Go do the weather. Give me the cards. All right. Deal me in. All right. So for tonight, that's right, Tuesday night, it's gonna be a low of 62. Rainy skies all around at 30%, with winds going west, southwest at 7 miles per hour. And on Wednesday, a sunny day for you. Cause it's gonna be a high of 72, low of 44. Mostly sunny skies with winds going northwest at 13 miles per hour. And on Thursday, the first day of May, cause it's gonna be a high of 70 degrees, low of 51. Partly cloudy skies with winds going east, southeast at 9 miles per hour. And on Friday, start of the stormy weekend, cause it's gonna be a high of 81, low of 51. Morning clouds into nightly sun with winds going southwest at 13 miles per hour. And on Saturday, here comes the thunder, cause it's gonna be a high of 89, that's 79, low of 53, thunderstorms at 73%, with winds going south, southwest at 13 miles per hour. And on Sunday, not a sunny day at all, cause it's gonna be a high of 65, low of 49, nightly showers at 34%, with winds going north, northeast at 10 miles per hour. And now you know, cause I've gotta go, because I am Dan the Weatherman Stu, and I am through for the weather broadcast for this week. And now back to the man who's holding a pair of Uno cards in his hand, DJ Smokey for the Tuesday Night Special. Yeah. Well, Dan the Weatherman Stu, like I told you, it was not going to take long to beat those kids in Uno. And if you're wondering what I won at home, folks, apparently some graham crackers. Let's see here. You got graham crackers. You got, 3 Twizzlers and whatever this little tiny coin is. Dan the Weatherman Stu, what is this coin? Dan the Weatherman Stu's coin? Wait a minute, that's my old coin from college. Where did you get that thing from? Well, apparently your said nephew, cousin, or wherever in the world it is, relations to you, is a good little thief, because he stole it off your bag. So, yeah, there you go. Back to you. But I technically won it, but I'm giving it to you. So, it's late. You know what? Let's go with that and see you later. You know, I would have just went into a whole back and forth with you, but I don't need the headache. I really don't. So, you have a good night. We'll see you in May. All right, DJ Smokey. Thanks, my coin back. Dan the Weatherman Stu out. Yeah. Well, he's gone. And apparently, hey, one sec. Hey, that is my thing. Hey, get your hand off that CD. That's what we're going to play next. off the CD. There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, seeing the fact that I've turned into some form of makeshift babysitter and having someone trying to take one of the songs we're about to play, I think it's time for us to take that song and put it on the airwaves, and when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the Indy Report right after this. So don't head downstairs for that pre or post midnight snack just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And yeah, if you're wondering, that was cruel, that's mean of me to beat a child in Uno like I did, which was pretty bad. Yeah, I've done worse at cookouts with family members, so yeah, that's my MO around here. I don't care what age you are, if you step up to Uno, prepare to get beat down. But besides a beatdown in Uno, folks, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indy Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local content information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And in our first news story, and in shocking news from the world of 2K, because yeah, apparently, oh boy, the people over at Gearbox decided to give the people a little bit of a gift and decided to move the release date of Borderlands 4 at least 11 days ahead of their previously announced date. And we would get word from Randy Pitchford saying the following: the team has been working very hard. Everything's going great. Actually, in fact, everything's going kind of the best case scenario. The game is awesome. The team is cooking. As such, Gearbox and 2K are bringing the release date forward, and then would go on forward by saying a lot of meetings, playtesting, and incredible game development work. But it's a little bit of a two-sided coin for me. I'm happy that the game's coming out early. I really am. But at the same time, on top of that, if you are releasing a game too early, it might come back to haunt you. But a lot of people are believing that they're releasing this game early so it doesn't step on the toes of the release date of Grand Theft Auto 6. Which could be a good move, but not many people are looking forward to that game. And according to Caller to my show, who's reserved a copy already, they say otherwise. Of course. And if you guys want to go ahead and get a tiny taste of what this game is going to be bringing to the table, well, I have some good news for you, because they've announced that there will be a state of play for Borderlands 4 as of April 30th, which will be this upcoming Wednesday. And on top of that, for those out there who do want to watch it, you can head on over to the Twitch and YouTube page of one man only known as PlayStation to check it out for yourselves. And as a little bit of a heads up, the new release date for Borderlands 4 has been moved up to September 12th of 2025. Yeesh. And in other news, and more or less collaboration news, for you fans out there who wants to celebrate the 30-year anniversary of Gundam, well, I have some good news for you. Because Overwatch would decide to team up with Bandai Namco to bring a 30-year anniversary set to the world of Overwatch, which would not only see Mercy as Wing Zero, Ramada as Empyrean, even Soldier 76 as Tall Geese, and even Reaper as Depth Scythe. Nice! Now, they're doing this collaboration with Overwatch right now, but with a certain game that's for Capcom that's been doing some pretty cool collaborations. I'm wondering if they'll join in on the fun too and decide to celebrate over there. Or a high possibility in the world of Phantasy Star for that to be celebrated over there as well too. Because I could see a couple of Rangers and robots coming up with some very cool weapon combinations featuring the Gundams. Just saying. And if you guys want to go ahead and get your hands on this custom Gundam gear for yourselves, then you can head on over to Overwatch to get it over there. It's the best answer I could possibly give, and as a bit of a heads up, the event for the Overwatch Gundam series is currently available as we speak. So go ahead and grab it. And with that said, folks, we now move our way on over towards the concert information. And we kick things off with Wednesday, April 30th. And the first band we have up is Chad Hoffman, who's going to be performing at the Parker's Grill and Tavern in Avon Lake, Ohio, at 5:30 p.m. Scotty Alexander is going to be performing at the Laguna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas, at 5:30 p.m. Trevor Finley is going to be performing at the Bootleggers Inn in Nashville, Tennessee, at 6 p.m. John Starr is going to be performing at the Bayside Restaurant in Newport Beach, California, at 6 p.m. Midnight Hellion with Anvil and Don Jamieson is going to be performing at the Aquarium in Tampa, Florida, at 6 p.m. PJ Steelman is going to be performing at the Commodore Grill in Nashville, Tennessee, at 6:30 p.m. Circus Mutt is going to be performing at the Joint Next Door in Fairview, North Carolina, at 7 p.m. Rock Island is going to be performing at the Luna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas, at 8:30 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Wednesday night, you can see Greg Fundis is going to be performing at the Mom's Place in Chicago, Illinois at 9 p.m. And on Thursday, May 1st, aka May Day, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. The C4 Band is going to be performing at the Bobby's Idle Hour Tavern in Nashville, Tennessee, at 12:30 p.m. You can also see Nathan Hubble, who's going to be performing at the Luna Bob in South Padre Island, Texas, at 5 p.m. Victoria Banks is going to be performing at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee, at 6 p.m. Bill White is going to be performing at the Listening Room Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee, at 6 p.m. Adrift, Lenny Kane, and J.J. Kuiper is going to be performing at the Sherman Theater in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, at 7 p.m. Southern Disposition is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas, at 7 p.m. Logan Ryan Band is going to be performing at the Chatham Street Warehouse in San Marcos, Texas, at 8 p.m. Donna Frost is going to be performing at the Millennium Maxwell House Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee, at 9 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Thursday night, you can see We Collective, who's going to be performing at the Luke Bar and Grill in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at 10 p.m. And on Tuesday for next week, which is just one day removed from Cinco de Mayo, or May 6th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Palmero is going to be performing at the Mac Restaurant Nightclub in Eugene, Oregon, or Eugene, Oregon. Thank you for the correction, calling the Maestro. At 5 p.m., Spencer Rush is going to be performing at the Hot Fish Club in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. At 5 p.m., Ten Pen Alley is going to be performing at the U.S. Cellular Stage at the Baijiu Theater in Knoxville, Tennessee. At 6:30 p.m., Shelly King with Carolyn Wonderland is going to be performing at the Continental Club in Austin, Texas. At 6:30 p.m., Nate Nielsen Acoustic is going to be performing at the Red Brick Tavern in Conroe, Texas. At 7 p.m., Rio Hillman is going to be performing at the Roadhouse Saloon in Idaho Falls, Idaho. At 7 p.m., Marty Seymour is going to be performing at the Froggies in Virginia Beach, Virginia. At 7 p.m., the C4 Band is going to be performing at the Hard Rock Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee. At 8 p.m., and to finally wrap things up for Tuesday for next week and all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see Robin Willis, who's going to be performing at the GOAT in Dallas, Texas at 10 p.m. According to Carl and the Maestro, we can mention 3 more bands. Okay? Even though they're going to be out of order, and I warned them ahead of time, you can see Mike Warren, who's going to be performing at the La Pizza's Italian Restaurant and Bar in Roxborough, North Carolina. At 7 p.m., Lisa Ann Kirby, who's going to be performing at the Keystone Corner in Baltimore, Maryland. At 7 p.m., and finally, last but not least, to add 3 more to the mix for next Tuesday and to wrap things up for this week and for this month of Fools, you can see Van Buchanan, who's going to be performing at the 1810 Ojiman in Houston, Texas at 7:30 p.m. If you guys and gals out there want to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast, and trust me, folks, there were a lot of them, you can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And while you're over there, check out a couple of their cool tunes. Trust me, worth the listen. Really are. Like we say at the end of all of these skits, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for the Tuesday Night Special for this week, right after this. So don't head downstairs for that pre or post midnight snack just yet, folks, or watch any of those infomercials you see on TV, and stay tuned. Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, seeing the fact that we ran fresh out of music, Streetlight Crusading oil, and apparently time, according to Carl and the Maestro, we might as well bring the Tuesday Night Special for this week and for this year's Month of Fools to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that Streetlight delight that we were able to give you for this week, we got you covered. Because you can catch the show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Live 365, and Tumblr pages still loud named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag Tuesday Night Special 537. And if you're wondering at home, yes, for every single logo we have up for the show, it will feature the episode number right underneath it for each one. Cool, I know, right? I know. And if you guys want to figure out all the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for these remaining days or day for this month of Fools heading directly into our vacation, like our imagination going wild before this month wraps it up, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we'd like to thank, as always, you the Streetlight Crusaders out there for listening in to a very special late night foolhardy month wrap-up edition of the Tuesday Night Special. And if you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? And Carla the Maestro interrupted me and said, like early Kyler during that episode with the corn maze. Oh, all right. We'll go with that then. Because the PR department is dressed up like early Kyler with the hat that says, Beasley Beach, baby, yeah, underneath it. Good job, guys. Good job. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping your music gets featured during this late night programming. Because trust me, some Streetlight Crusaders would love to hear it, and it would definitely make their night. And why? Because we believe in you guys. That's why. That's why. And speaking of people's streetlight music we believe in, to be played a part of this show in late night hours, we would like to thank our musical guest for this week, none other than Jason Klug with his said song, A Pet the Dog, that was featured during the intro for this week's edition of the show. And of course, to none other than Carl and the Maestro with their said song of Planetarium After Hours, that was featured during the Indy Report. And for the song you're listening to right now in the background of the Late Night Cafe Wrap-Up, that's wrapping things up for this week's edition of the Tuesday Night Special. And like always, guys, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming out of the tubes next. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for coming out with all those sweet, sweet video game hits and clips we had a chance to mention throughout this entire month of Fools. And as always, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to see what you got coming around the corner next, because you never know what show might be coming around with it. Hint, hint. Hint, hint. And I guess what everybody thanked, you guys out there, we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl the Maestro, and for you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and especially you Streetlight Crusaders, wrapping up this month of Fools with one last foolhardy laugh in the night, saying, you won't win, Cormaze, you won't win. Man, that Cormaze sure did win, didn't it? But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for a very special post-Cinco de Mayo edition of the Tuesday Night Special. But until then, see you next week. Go get some sleep, and good night, everybody.